Central Surgical for the opportunity to present our work. We have nothing to disclose. For those of you in my age range, you may have spent a large portion of your life working at level 2 trauma centers. And while there's a fair body of evidence and research out there supporting the advantage of being taken to a level 1 trauma center when you're injured, there is a much smaller body of literature to support the development of level 2 trauma centers. And I was at the COT meeting last week where we saw how there are literally hundreds of these across the country. For those of you who may be aware of it, there's a rigorous debate now going on in the state of Florida about distances between level 1s, and can you stick a level 2 between a couple level 1s, and what difference does it make? So we had the opportunity in our area to look at the development of a second level 2 trauma center and its effect on traffic fatalities. Car crashes are one of the leading causes of traumatic injuries, as we all know. Crash fatalities have been decreasing nationwide, at least partially due to access to trauma centers, and there's data to support that. Access to a designated trauma center has been shown to increase your chance of survival, and Indiana has 4 level 1 and 5 level 2 trauma centers. One of the level 1s was the paper just presented before us. Fort Wayne, which is the second largest city in the state of Indiana, has 2 verified level 2 trauma centers that serve the surrounding area. Parkview was initially verified in the year 2000 and Lutheran in 2009. The question we wished to study was whether or not there was a measurable positive effect of adding a second verified level 2 trauma center on motor vehicle collisions, their fatality rates. Now, this slide is a little hard to read, but it lays out the area study. We took 2 periods in time. One was 2006. This was 2 3-year cycles. As you all know, the verifications go to 3-year cycles. So this is 2 verifications after the first trauma center was verified and 3 years before the second one was verified. 2012 is 3 years after the second trauma center was verified. This slide shows our fatal rate calculations for fatality rate per 100,000 population. If you've at all gone into NHTSA's website and looked at the FARS fatal accident reporting system, they report it per 100,000, so we took the population of each of these counties, broke it down by the number of fatalities in the counties. This work, all the grunt work was done by a couple of medical students, my co-authors Becky Mason and Jeff Uri, who's here in the audience. He's looking for a residency program, by the way, you guys, Steve Barnes and company. Population data was collected from the U.S. Census Bureau. We had the FARS system and used Pearson correlation coefficients is what our statistician shows. Now this slide is a little busy, I apologize for that, but you can see that the years studied here are 06 and 12. These were national averages for fatality rates per 100,000, and that's in this first table. And you can see that we have this broken down by national average, our control area, our area as a whole, northeastern Indiana, which again includes northwestern Ohio, northeastern Indiana, northern counties, so this is the counties closer to, once the second trauma center was in, they're closer to the first or original trauma center, and then the southern counties, which are closer to the second trauma center, our trauma center. In Table 2, we compared these rates and looked at northeastern here, 2006, 2012, and then look for the change. So this is the fatality rate change per 100,000. So it's not a percentage, it's an absolute number if you look at the FARS data system. So the change here you can see was a decline over the 6-year period nationally of about 3.5 persons. And in north central Indiana, our control area, just over 3, about the same. And in our area, almost 5.5. Then in Table 3, we looked at Pearson correlation coefficients and the significance of these. The change in central Indiana from the U.S. national average had a p-value indicating that it was essentially the same. Northeastern Indiana as a whole, 0.002. Northeastern Indiana, northern counties, which were not closer to the second trauma center, 0.001. But the southern counties themselves actually showed something that was not statistically significant correlated. So what this means is that the decline we experienced in our area was actually not likely the same as that nationally. Here's the same data basically broken down into a bar graph just for purposes of demonstration. The solid black line you can see on each of these years, and these are just 2-year intervals, is the national average. We have our control area on the left is the rust-colored bar. The reddish bar, burnt red, is northeastern Indiana combined. The blue bar is northern counties in our region, and the gray bar is in southern counties. And as you can see, over time, basically all declined, and they also seem to average out here by the end of the study. So there seems to be an averaging effect going on, which we can't explain. I don't think it's like ambulances driving to one trauma center or not. We don't have any evidence of that. But these are the declines we experienced, and the conclusion of our study was that we experienced a greater rate of decline than that of the nation or the control area. So here's that. The addition of a second level 2 trauma center reduced the rate of fatalities by motor vehicle crashes in northeastern Indiana during the time period study. National and control area MVC fatalities decreased over the same period. And we're suggesting that further research is needed into the effects of a level 2 trauma center location based on trauma outcomes, populations, and other injury mechanisms. Like, we don't know that the same effect might be mirrored in another area of the country, say more rural or more densely populated like is happening in Florida, or does it even apply with penetrating trauma? There's been some discussion at the national level about dilution of experience. Maybe you put a level 2 next to a level 1, perhaps the mortality rate experienced by penetrating trauma may go down. We don't know. Those are all things that could be looked at. But that concludes our work. Thanks for the opportunity to present, and be happy to take questions.